Hello, welcome to the first post-football podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Walker, and today Elliot Heath joins me, West Ham United supporter by trade. Elliot, how are you going?
Very well, thanks, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So the post-football podcast will be covering basically all things football. We have a few guys that will be on the podcast, but it's just Elliot and I today. He's a West Ham supporter, I'm a Liverpool supporter. We'll try and be as unbiased as possible. But to start things today, or the topics we will cover today, I should say, we'll be going through the FA Cup final, which manager, Arteta or Lampard, who is going to win, who wants to win it most, who needs to win it most. We'll be covering Bournemouth. Will they sue Hawkeye for the goal line technology mix-up in the Premier League, which costs them relegation? We'll also go through our best FA Cup memories and maybe also look at the PSG treble and also the Newcastle takeover bid failing. So we'll start with the first topic of the day. This is the FA Cup final, the showpiece event of the season. It's Arsenal versus Chelsea, a big game, Elliot.
Yeah, it's a very big game. Not just for Arsenal and Chelsea, but also for Tottenham in terms of their upcoming season, and in terms of them having to qualify for the Europa League and a bit of fixture congestion there to start off the season. So I'm sure that'll spur Arsenal on.
Yeah, I think going into the game, Arsenal should have the most motivation, I guess, in a way. Well, it's a cup final, both teams should have the motivation to win, but Arsenal definitely is a bigger incentive to reach European football. It's the only way they can at the moment. But Arsenal under pressure in big games this season, they've gone, they haven't been necessarily great and necessarily bad, and they've shown both of those things, really. They beat City in the semi-final, but then again, in other big games, they failed to show up. But I think Arteta will have a clear plan for them, at least, for the final. And they'll give their best chance to try and win. Whereas previous seasons, with Wenger in charge and Emery, there wasn't really a clear plan in place. So I think that, Arteta will know exactly what he wants to do, and that give them the best chance of winning.
Yeah, definitely. Should also mention, it's worth noting that it's also big for Wolves. If Arsenal win, they don't get European football, barring them winning the Europa League, of course. But yeah, I think Arsenal definitely have a plan. And, it's Arsenal. They seem to be a bit the FA Cup specialists. So I think, I think they're going to win. I think Arsenal will win.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling Arsenal will do it too. I don't know, but they've shown up.
Beating Man City in the semi, they
Exactly.
just are the FA Cup specialists. They just show up in the FA Cup for some reason.
Yeah, very true. And I think it's this century when Arsenal and Chelsea have met in the FA Cup final. Arsenal have won both of those matches as well. So they have a good track record against Chelsea in the final. And,
everything points towards an Arsenal win, but it's definitely not going to be that simple.
No, definitely not. I think, would you say Chelsea are slight favourites going into the game on form at the moment?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Arsenal definitely you just don't know what that defence is going to show up.
Yeah, well,
Arsenal.
both defensives this season really they've been a bit iffy. Even Chelsea, I think it's their second worst Premier League season in terms of their defence letting in goals. I think it's over 50, like 56 or around something like that, which is not like them at all. But everything's pointing towards quite an open game. Do you think we'll see some goals in this one?
Yeah, I think we'll see some goals. Aubameyang, Aubameyang loves to score goals, so back him in to get on the score sheet. Chelsea-wise,
Giroud's been in good form.
I don't know about Giroud. I think he's been playing okay, but at the same time.
Well, I think.
But at the same time, he's going to have some good service from Pulisic, so he could be a threat. And Pulisic is in great form, so
yeah.
If there was going to be a man to win it for Chelsea, I would say he's going to do that.
Yeah, well, Giroud, obviously, his experience in these sorts of games as well, his ex-club, is Arsenal, will be a great motivating factor for him as well. Would you start Willian that experience
I
as
would.
well up front. He's been playing well.
I think he's their best right-sided player, so I think he definitely should start.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. There's a bit of a mix-up with his contract situation at the moment. He wants 3 years on his deal. I think is he 32 now?
Yeah, he's getting around that sort of age.
Yeah.
He's playing Arsenal too, where he might be next year.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think the club offered him an extra 2 years on his deal, but he wants 3. And Chelsea are probably, in the right for offering 2 years. He's a 32-year-old, but he's still extraordinarily fit and playing at the top level still. But all right, we'll move on to the combined 11 of the two sides. We'll start in goals. Obviously, Chelsea with some keeper problems with their side at the moment with Kepa, so I think we'll have to go for Martinez in goal. He's been in great form. What do you reckon, Elliot?
Completely agree, Martinez. Bit of a revelation since Leno got injured. He's been fantastic, and I would expect Caballero to start, and I think he's a good goalkeeper, but I think Martinez has been playing a lot better lately.
Yeah, 100%. I think Martinez is almost Arsenal's number one. I don't know if it's a blessing in disguise that Leno got injured. Obviously a horrible injury, but I think Martinez has really stepped up, and I think he's
sort of come from nowhere as well.
Yeah, I remember watching Liverpool supporter, and I remember watching the game at the Emirates this season. He had a good, solid game as well, and definitely kept us out of the game towards the end when we were pushing for the goal. But we'll move to the defence. So what formation are we looking? Because both sides sort of play a 3 at the back, 5 at the back sort of thing, with a wing back. So we'll have to go for that formation then.
Yeah. Looks like they'll both match up with that on the weekend.
Yeah, well, it's a proven system for both teams at the moment, but it's going to be sort of hard picking the defences.
It's definitely hard picking.
To be honest,
I look at them and none of them are playing particularly well.
Yeah, no, I think Rudiger. Would you say Rudiger's in there?
I'd back in Rudiger, even though I don't think he's fantastic. I think
he's probably been the most.
If you look at the players up against him, he's not against a whole lot of competition here.
Yeah, he's probably been the most consistent out of all the defenders for what we're picking from this season, maybe. Been a regular starter in Chelsea's side, so we'll go Rudiger as one of the 3 centre halves. The next one that comes to mind, Rob Holding, do you think?
Potentially, but I don't know. Is Rob Holding going to start? Possibly, yeah.
Well, has he won the FA Cup with Arsenal playing centre-back before? Wasn't he a starter when they beat... Was it Chelsea last time they beat? Or
most possibly. Yeah, I'm happy to put him in.
Yeah, well, I don't know if David Luiz, would you consider?
No.
I mean, he did have a blinder against Man City, but
yeah, but it was a one-off in comparison to what he has been serving up lately.
Yeah, do you think he'll start? I think he will start against Chelsea, obviously.
Yeah, he'll most likely start, especially if they play 3 at the back. But
yeah, that's definitely
Do we think someone like Zuma or?
Yeah, I think we'd have to put Zuma in, I reckon. But just going back to David Luiz, I think also playing against his old club will maybe be a big factor for him. Maybe help him to have a better game. He usually, in the bigger games, he does tend to show up. So apart from obviously the game at the Emirates against Man City, but
when Brazil played Germany.
Yes, and that too. But we all have we can call them Lovren moments, I guess. David Luiz moments. Far too often, I guess, at the moment. But, I think Kurt Zuma will probably start. Kieran Tierney maybe is a shout. Is he playing the centre-half, or was he at wing-back?
I think he's possibly playing at centre-half instead of wing-back, but have a look at Arsenal's teams the past few weeks. Because I was having a look and one side predicted him to be playing at. He played at left back against Watford, but they played 2 at the back there.
Yeah, right. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think we'll have to go with Zuma on that one. So it's going to be Martinez, Zuma, Rudiger, and Rob Holding. Not a bad back line, but with the wing backs, we'll move on to. We've got Marcus Alonso. You could chuck Kieran Tierney in the conversation. If we'll go to the left wing back position first, who do you reckon?
I'm going to go with Tierney.
Tierney?
Tierney, the way he's been playing.
He has been in good form lately. Alonso has been solid. Nothing too out of the ordinary.
Alonso was okay at the start. He's gone in patches, but lately I don't think he's been playing fantastic.
No, definitely not. I think both are similar sort of players. Alonso, they both pose, attacking threat, good at crossing the ball in. Alonso has a good strike on him. I think he's a bit more of a goal threat than Kieran Tierney, but both solid fullbacks.
And you can chuck Saka into that conversation, but probably not going to offer a whole lot going back.
Yeah, no, Saka's had definitely a breakthrough sort of season for him. I think, is he Nigerian as well? Is he Nigerian background?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think they offered him to play for the national team there, but then England can sort of also say, because he's grown up in England.
Yeah.
But so Gareth Southgate will surely be having conversations with him over this summer, whether he wants to play for England or Nigeria.
There's a few of those guys.
Yeah, they're on. Yeah,
Saka, Eze, he's another one.
Eze,
that
yes.
Nigeria won over England. And there's one other guy.
I think it was Victor Moses ages ago. One of those sort of...
There's another up-and-coming guy that's possibly... I can't remember who it is.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely a few that have to make that sort of decision. But we'll move on to the right-back position. I think Reece James makes my team. I don't know what you would say about that one.
Yeah, probably Reece James. Again, not a whole lot to come up against.
Yeah, I mean Bellerin.
Maitland-Niles. Bellerin's injured.
Yeah.
He would maybe slot in if he was injured, but he's definitely not playing.
Yeah, no,
actually, maybe he's back. He might be back this week.
I guess we were sort of
definitely injured on the weekend.
Yeah, if you're going off of current form, then Reece James would make my team. Maitland-Niles has had another one of those breakout seasons, sort of like Saka. But Reece James, I think he could probably be in the top 10 right backs this season in all of Europe. He's been that good for Chelsea. There's lots of potential there, so we'll see how he...
I think maybe Bellerin his best gets in there, but he's been nowhere near his best, so...
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll go with Reece James then. And then midfield positions, I think if we're going off form, I don't think Kante can be in there. I think he's only played, I think it's 7 games since the restart. But if we weren't going off form,
he also hasn't played.
Kante would probably be the best.
For almost a month, and I'm not sure how.
I think he is. I think he is. Yeah, I think he's fit for the final, but not in terms of, obviously he's not match fit.
So he may come off the bench.
Yeah, not a bad player to come off the bench, to be fair. But so Kante, we can't choose him with his injuries. So, who do we have to choose from? Ceballos has been playing.
I would say Kovacic.
Kovacic. He's been a regular in Chelsea's side this season. He stepped up to the plate. Keeps their midfield ticking very nicely. He's a very creative player. Definitely links the midfield with the attack. So I think Kovacic would make the team. Would you pick Jorginho? Would you go for Ceballos? Both similar sort of players, not necessarily greatest defensively, but they're both sort of players that keep
Jorginho's probably better defensively. It's Ceballos. If I was playing Ceballos, I would worry that my midfield pair is too attacking in a sense.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe I would probably go for Jorginho.
Or
even Xhaka. I'd probably go for Xhaka.
Xhaka, yeah, since
over Ceballos. Just in terms of the team, and I just feel like I would need a more defensive-minded player in that midfield, considering 3 centre-backs aren't the greatest.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And to be fair, since Arteta has come in, Xhaka he's gone a bit under the radar in a way because he sort of does all the dirty work that lets the likes of Ceballos and the other midfielders in front of him be more creative and play their game. So I think he's done a great job in that sense. And
in terms of balance, I would probably chuck Xhaka in.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think he's better. Would you say he's better defensively than Jorginho? I think so.
Yeah,
definitely. 100%. So we'll go with Xhaka and Kovacic in midfield. And then are we playing a centre attacking midfielder or are we going...
we'll just go the three up.
Three up top? Okay, I think Pulisic has to be in there.
Yeah, I'd chuck Pulisic on the right.
On the right, okay.
Or Aubameyang, one of the two.
Oh, I guess,
front three, I would have Aubameyang and Pulisic on the wings and Lacazette up top.
Lacazette up top, okay. Fair enough. I thought there may be a shout for Giroud. I think he's been in decent goal-scoring form lately. But, yeah, I guess Lacazette has been performing well too recently and probably just gets in over Giroud. So,
yeah.
But you definitely have to have Aubameyang in there for sure.
Yeah, and Pulisic, they're both.
Yeah. There's a shout for Willian too, but you could sort of go maybe Pulisic on the left, Aubameyang up top, Willian at right wing.
You could, yeah.
Yeah, it is a tough decision, but I think I'd have to agree with you. Lacazette up top, Aubameyang on the left, and Pulisic on the right. Even though he has sort of been playing off the left this season, I think we'll see him start with Giroud up top and Willian on the right for Chelsea. Come Saturday in England, it'll be a Sunday morning in Australia, 2:30 a.m. kickoff for us. Will you be watching?
I will be, most likely, yeah.
That's good. It's it's an early one for most Australians, and I guess that's a good segue into the next topic. It's our best FA Cup memories. So, obviously it's an early rise for most Aussies in our part of the world, and we'll talk about our best memories at West Ham. They've been decent with the FA Cup, maybe not recently.
Not in the last couple of years, getting knocked out 4-2 to Wimbledon.
Yes, no, that wasn't... Was that when Akinfenwa was...
Most likely.
Was that Akinfenwa playing for them?
No, that was too recent for Akinfenwa. He would have been at Wickham then. Right. But that was a shocking day. Going 3-0 down to Wimbledon and then bringing it back to 4-2, 3-2, and then conceding another one. It was a horrible day.
Yeah,
that felt bad. And then this year, obviously, losing to West Brom at home. Another shocking year of the FA Cup. But my best memory with West Ham in the FA Cup, I think there's only one moment for me personally, and that's Dimitri Payet's free kick at Old Trafford.
Oh, yes. Payet, he could definitely whip a free kick.
That was one of the best free kicks I've seen. That was a great free kick.
That was quite spectacular, and De Gea was it off the post that it came?
Yeah, off the post.
Yeah, that was...
Just the silence and the clunk of the ball hitting the post.
That was a beautiful free kick.
It was a big game as well. There was a quarter-final at Old Trafford, so... Fortunately, it went to a replay and we lost, but...
Yeah.
Still a good moment to go 1-0 up there.
I thought you'd also mention when West Ham beat Liverpool at... Upton Park not too long ago. It's one of, I think Klopp was in charge.
Yeah.
I remember Coutinho scores. Yeah,
in extra time, big header.
Yeah. I remember I had to record the game, and the game was probably, I think it was like a 3 a.m. kickoff again, so I recorded it, and then we went to school. I think I told you not to spoil it for me or something, and then I came home, watched the game, and the recording stopped in like the 115th minute, so I didn't get to see Ogbonna score the winner. So I had to look up the score. I had to look up the score, and I saw Ogbonna scored in the 120th minute. I was like, "You've got to be joking me!" And I just remember dreading seeing you the next day at school. But
yeah, that was a good moment as well.
I
don't think Liverpool were as good a team back then. And I think they were all right. That was when Coutinho was there.
Coutinho was there. That was when Klopp first came, so we had Benteke playing up front. I remember Coutinho. Yeah. Coutinho scores that free kick under the wall, which was, I think, gives us a 1-1, brings it back to 1-1. But not the greatest FA Cup memories in recent times for Liverpool either. But to say my favourite memory is probably that back in, I think it was 2011/12 when we beat Everton in the semi-final at Wembley. We go 1-0 down. I think, what's his name? The striker for Everton starts with a J. Forgotten his name, it's escaped me, but it's not Jovicic, that was a City player.
Jelavic. He played for West Ham too.
Jelavic, yes. Jelavic scores. I think he opens the scoring, and then Distan for Everton has a massive mistake. He literally passes the ball through for Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez scores outside the foot, brings it back to 1-1, and then it's in the 90th minute, Andy Carroll steps up, the ex-Liverpool and West Ham. Well, he's at West Ham now, isn't he? Oh no, he's at Newcastle. He's at Newcastle now.
Gone back to
yes. But yeah, so the ex-West Ham man as well. Iconic Carroll header.
I remember seeing the highlights of that, not recently, of that game. Recently.
Yeah, it was a cracking game.
That Carroll header. Also, another moment to shout out for West Ham was when we played Everton, I think, in the fourth round, and Adrian threw his gloves off and scored the winning penalty.
Oh, yes.
So it was 10-9 or something like that.
That was a crazy
penalty
shootout as well.
That was back when Big Sam was the manager.
Yeah, well, those FA Cup nights at Upton Park, that was a cagey sort of atmosphere.
Yeah.
That was sort of like a classic FA Cup game, you'd think. Going to Upton Park, that was a hard atmosphere to deal with. I don't know if it's the same in the London Stadium now, but
no.
Not that same sort of magic in the crowd for a West Ham home game, I think it must be said. But that just going back to more memories, I think that's that same season, that Merseyside derby in the semi-final, great memories. Unfortunately, we go on to lose the final against Chelsea, Drogba's Chelsea, 2-1. I remember we went 2-0 down, and then Carroll scores to make it 2-1, and then he has a header late in the game that gets cleared off the line. Who knows if it crossed the line or not? I think it was just on the line. I don't know if it just crossed, but I think Petr Cech saves on the line. That was heartbreaking as a young fan growing up. I think that was the first FA Cup final I saw us play in, and the last FA Cup final I saw us play in.
That day.
But probably we won the League Cup earlier that year. Tried to make it a league and FA Cup double. A League Cup, not the league, but Kenny Dalglish gets sacked later after that game. But not Liverpool. I guess between Liverpool and West Ham, there's that 2006 FA Cup final. We weren't quite old enough to be watching that.
No.
But what a cracking.
5.
Yeah, we
would have turned 5. Yeah, 4 probably.
We were 4 years old, so not old enough yet, but. What a cracking game that was. We've both seen the highlights for that. The Stevie G special.
We don't want to talk about that.
I don't want to talk about that, but that's...
like we have another final against each other, but roles reverse next time.
Well, that's probably one of the classic FA Cup finals.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the West Ham are winning 3-2. Paul Konchesky scores that cross, which he was definitely not aiming for the goal, but it puts them... I think I can't remember the score, but he puts them ahead, puts them in the lead, and then Gerrard on the 90.
I'm pretty sure we were 2-0 up even at one stage.
Yeah, I think you were 2-0 up because was it Jamie Carragher scores that own goal to put you 1-0 up, and Konchesky also scores that goal as well, and then Cisse, I think Gerrard plays a 40-yard over the top through ball for Cisse. Cisse first time. Bangs it in, amazing goal, and then Gerrard equalises for 2-2.
Which Cisse was that? Because there was Papa Cisse and Djibril Cisse, right?
It was Djibril Cisse. I think it's Djibril Cisse.
But there was 2, wasn't there?
Papa Cisse was the Newcastle Cisse.
And was Papa Cisse the QPR one as well?
No, that was Djibril.
So Djibril went to...
Djibril's been around.
Yeah. So Djibril was older.
Djibril was older when he was older. Djibril played in the Champions League final in 2005 as well for Liverpool, which is just...
Yeah, Djibril Cisse was the one at QPR that scored against Man City on the final day.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he does come up with some important goals.
And which Cisse scored that?
So the outside the boot
Ripping
against
goal
Chelsea.
Against,
that was
Chelsea.
Papis. That's Papis.
Okay.
I don't know if they're related.
Papis
Are they related?
Cisse.
They could be related, you know. I'm not sure, but that was that season where it's Papis Cisse, when he scores that wonder goal against Chelsea. He scored, well, he's in double figures that season for Newcastle, and everyone thought, oh, he's the next best striker. I remember, for some reason, on FIFA, I'd always used to, like at the end of the season, I'd always change the player ratings to make them what I think they would be for next season and start a new career mode. So I put Papis Cisse at like 87 rated, 88 rated for the next season after he had that breakthrough campaign at Newcastle. But
so Papis Cisse, does he still play?
I don't know. I don't. He's not.
He definitely played last season at Alanyaspor in Turkey, and it doesn't say he's retired, but he might be retired.
Yeah, he's probably still kicking around, but yeah. So some great FA Cup memories, both for Liverpool and West Ham. Just quickly mention another one for Liverpool. It was 2001. I was only just born as well, but Michael Owen scores 2 against Arsenal to single-handedly basically win Liverpool the FA Cup at the old Cardiff, the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. But yeah, in terms of crowds at the FA Cup, there's not going to be a crowd at Wembley, which is going to be very, very odd for a cup final. Usually at Wembley, it's a packed 90,000 people in.
Takes away from the day.
100%. I think since the restart, I think it's going to be the weirdest game not having a crowd, because it's usually, you know, everyone is really hyped for the game, like even around the ground, everyone, like it's a day out for the fans as well. It's just like the whole, that's what everyone looks forward to. Like
and even as a player, if you win the FA Cup with no fans in the crowd to celebrate it with, it's almost a bit dead.
Yeah,
I would feel if I was a player and I was celebrating with just ourselves, you know what I mean? It'd be hard to be so excited about winning the FA Cup.
No, exactly. It's just, it takes away a lot from the day, and it's a real shame. I think in Spain, I forgot who the teams are playing in their cup final. I think it may be Sevilla. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Sevilla and someone else. But both teams have agreed to not play the cup final until they're actually allowed a certain number of people to enter the stadium, which is interesting over there. But I'm not sure that would work in England at the moment, especially like there's so many corporate issues with that, all the finances and stuff and whatnot, qualifying for Europe and all that stuff. So there's just no getting around it. But I guess they have to make the best of what they can. Liverpool, I guess, did
just
that
have
with
to be like Australia. Be like Australia. We've got some crowds back.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess England is a bit more densely populated in certain areas. But, I guess it was, the crowd on FA Cup final day, I guess, the atmosphere is just absolutely raucous, and I'd
love to go to an FA Cup final.
It would be an amazing experience to have that. I remember my dad, who's also a Liverpool supporter, he didn't go to the FA Cup final, but he was there in, it was 2015/16, for Liverpool against Man City at Wembley for the League Cup final, and he is a bit biased, I must say, but when Liverpool were 1-0 down and when Coutinho equalised to make it 1-1, he just said the roar at Wembley, like all the Liverpool supporters, it was just unreal, like nothing he ever experienced. I want to experience that one day at Wembley myself. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah. I have to make a trip over.
We'll have to maybe take the pod over one day if we if it becomes that successful. Hopefully it does. But we'll move on to the next topic. I think we sort of covered the FA Cup final, or actually we'll talk about Arteta and Lampard. Which manager do you think going into the final needs to win it more? We know that Arteta, it's been Arsenal's worst Premier League season since 25 years, their lowest finish for 25 years or something. But Lampard, both managers will obviously want to win it, but who do you think needs to win it more?
I don't think either of them particularly need it. But if looking at it, if you're going to say who needs it more, well, Arteta definitely needs it more. Lampard's had a good season. He's finished in the Champions League. He spent $0. He's in the FA Cup final. That's a good season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Arteta's finished in, as you said, they finished in a horrendous position for them, in 8th position. And without Europe at the moment, their only way into Europe is through the FA Cup, because they knocked out the Europa League as well. So he definitely needs it more than Lampard in that sense. But I still don't think Arteta needs it in order to keep his job. I think they'll give him some time.
No, definitely not in terms of keeping jobs or anything. I think they're both safe. They've both done very good jobs so far with the time they've had. Well, we have to remember Arteta, it's only really been half a season for him as well. So
yeah, it's felt like a full season, but only half a season. And like, it's not his fault that the board have spent obscene amounts of money on a player like Pepe, in comparison to what he's delivered. And you just think about, if they had spent that 70 or whatever million on their back four, think about how solid that back four would be.
No, exactly.
And how different that team would be. So
that's true. And 72 million for Pepe. I think he's for the price tag, he's definitely been one of the biggest flops of the season. He's had a few moments here and there, but definitely not consistently enough. And I'm sure they'll give him time to gel. They sort of have to give him time to gel with that 72 million price tag. But
definitely.
No, I think Arteta definitely, they don't need to win it, but if you're saying who needs it more, I think Arteta, you mentioned obviously Arsenal, they want European football next season, and if crowds are coming back next season, we don't know when, but it's also the European implications for these clubs. That's massive for them. They need to fill the Emirates Stadium. It's 60,000 people.
Yep, that's right.
Every now and then.
It's massive for a club as Arsenal. Way more important if you look at it on a club wise, Arsenal need it way more, because if they don't get European football, then it's a massive blow.
No, 100%. And
it's a massive blow in what they can do in the transfer window as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially with the uncertainty now with clubs at the moment going for players, with the market at the moment, with the coronavirus, everyone, it's uncertain times to say, well, what's the market going to be like? How's it going to react? What are teams going to be willing to spend?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that Arsenal, they need to be playing in Europe next season. But yeah, also I was going to say, Frank, he's finished in the top four, or taking Chelsea to a top four finish. FA Cup would sort of be the cherry on top. I wouldn't say he'd rather win the FA Cup than finishing in the top four, would you?
No, definitely not. But I think in terms of personally that team and his achievements for this season, winning the FA Cup takes it to a great season.
Yeah, I think the trophy in his first season, you can't complain with that. And
especially with the transfer ban, losing Hazard, you wouldn't look at their squad and say it's that good, really. If you have a look at their squad,
no, I think
they're not an exceptional squad, and I think for him to, if he does win the FA Cup and make top four, that would be an outstanding achievement for him and the club.
Yeah, I think that he's coming into Chelsea. I think he was in a better position than Arteta. I think Chelsea have a better squad than Arsenal, and I think that's reflected in. You don't think?
I think
you don't know, really.
I think they do. Yes, they definitely do have a better squad, but I don't think it's that much better. I think attacking wise, Arsenal are better.
Yeah.
In terms of the players they have, I think they should be better. I think midfield wise, Chelsea edge it, but considering Kante's been pretty absent this season, if he's playing, they're definitely a much better midfield. But Kovacic and Jorginho, whilst they are above what Arsenal have, they're not miles above. And defence-wise, they're the same. They're slightly above what Arsenal have.
Yeah, I think we've discussed that earlier. I think it's all going to point towards an open game in the final. Hopefully we'll see some goals. But then again, we saw Arsenal, their approach against Man City was more pragmatic. So I think Arteta maybe could surprise a few people with his approach. Chelsea obviously like to have most of the possession in games. So, and that Arsenal's counter-attacking ability with Aubameyang off the left and Lacazette up front, they can be lethal. So, as we saw against Manchester City. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how Arteta approaches it. Does he sort of maybe go defensive more towards the start of the game? Don't want to concede early, cup final sort of thing. Maybe get a feel for the game to see how it's going. I'm not sure, but
I don't necessarily think it's a good idea for Arsenal ever to play defensively.
No, or not like park the bus sort of thing.
No, but you know what I mean. If you want to sit back, then you're going to Arsenal another team that you'd back to keep out a team for a period of time.
No, they need to play to their strengths, especially in a cup final. You don't want to mix things up too much and going into such an important game of the season. But so FA Cup final. It's all pointing towards a cracking game. Unfortunately, there's no crowd to back that up. It would have been, London rivals, a great day out at Wembley for both sets of supporters. But, as a Liverpool supporter...
A great day in the pub now instead.
Yeah, it's a great day in the pub, exactly. As a Liverpool supporter and, I don't know, as a West Ham supporter, who would you rather see win this game?
Arsenal.
Arsenal?
Definitely.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it's going to sound a bit...
Because it also hampers Tottenham.
Yeah. Yeah, Tottenham fans would be...
Tottenham have to play 2 qualifying legs before they get into the Europa League at the start of the season, so...
Yeah, no one wants to be playing those.
No one wants to be going to Romania or something.
No. Oh, jeez. We've seen that sort of derail the start of a few Premier League teams.
Or versing Ashra Gurju.
Ashra fucking Gurju. I think, that's... Oh, jeez. If people haven't seen that video of that West Ham supporter reacting, I'd recommend go looking that up right now.
Heavily features on that channel.
Yes. But as a Liverpool supporter, it's going to sound a bit gloaty, but I'm not particularly asked who winning the league this season. Because we've won the league and, I'm
winning the league, you mean the FA Cup?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've won the league. I'm not really asked who's going to win the FA Cup sort of thing. But if I have to choose, I'd probably lean towards Arsenal winning it because I just hate Chelsea, really.
Chelsea, sure.
The rivalry between Liverpool and Chelsea in recent times.
I dislike Liverpool as well, so...
Yeah, well, we can't all get what we want. Obviously, we don't want both teams to win it, but we can't have a draw, so...
no, I definitely want Arsenal to win it over Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. So that's the FA Cup final.
And I think Arsenal will win. Who do you think will win?
I think Arsenal will win too. I just have that feeling. I don't know, as you said, they're specialists in the FA Cup. And I think they slightly, going for Europe as well, they may want
to... Yeah, they have that extra bit of motivation.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so Arsenal to win the FA Cup, in our opinion.
That's right, Arsenal to win it.
Score prediction?
2-1.
2-1?
2-1 to Arsenal.
Right. I think it's going to be close as well. I'm going to go... let's hope for a classic FA Cup final. I'm going to go Arsenal to win it 4-3.
4-3.
4-3.
I can see it going into extra time as well. That's a possibility. Extra time win for Arsenal.
Yeah, that would make it exciting. I think it would do the world a favour to make it an exciting game without the fans being there as well.
Yeah.
All right, so that's been our FA Cup preview. We'll cover a few more topics. Should we move on to Bournemouth versus Hawkeye?
Yeah.
You want to go to that? Okay, we'll go to that.
Yeah.
So, Bournemouth, obviously, been relegated from the Premier League. Rumours that they could sue Hawkeye for that mix-up when Aston Villa were playing... Is it Sheffield United? I'm correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Yep, just make sure I got that right. So obviously the ball crossed the line. Sheffield had scored, and Bournemouth, if that goes in... Or it did go in. If it was called a goal, Bournemouth don't get relegated. So, do you think they should sue Hawkeye? Is it a good look on them?
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it because it's such a massive financial implication for being relegated. But if you had asked me this time last week, I definitely would have said sue them. But I don't think Bournemouth will, because, or maybe they will, but I think they'll be less likely to because of the fact that they've just sold Ake for 41 million.
Right, and that's Manchester City, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't been officially confirmed, but
No, yeah.
Apparently the two teams have agreed a deal of 41 million.
Right, yeah, and I mean, I think it is just a money thing, really. Because they're not, let's face it, they're not coming back to the Premier League with, taking this to Hawkeye. They've been relegated.
Bring them back in and play with 21 teams next year.
21-team Premier League season. Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate for Bournemouth that did happen. Who knows? You can't firmly say that if that goal was given that they're going to stay up. They've been pretty poor.
It is unfair, and I think if they were to sue Hawkeye or sue the Premier League for the mistake, I think then they would probably most likely win, because
it
is an error on their behalf.
It is an error.
A duty to have a technology that works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 99, or you can say even 999 times out of 1,000, Hawkeye is going to work. I mean, these mistakes, as we saw, can happen. So I don't know if Bournemouth, if it's necessarily a great look on their club, and just hear me out, suing Hawkeye, because, look, they've been pretty poor all season. I think, in my opinion, the way they played, they deserve to be relegated. But, I mean, we saw earlier in the season, I don't know if you remember the situation with, I think it was Jonathan Moss, the referee. A few of their players, Bournemouth players, were arguing with him or whatever, maybe giving him some stick about a decision or whatever, and then Jonathan Moss had a word back to them, gave them some stick back, and apparently they were upset with that. And I think you remember that after the game, Bournemouth wanted to report the incident of Jonathan Moss giving some stick back to their players. I mean, does Bournemouth really have to be that soft in saying, "Oh, this referee has talked back to our players, we're going to report him"? I mean, come on. The players give stick to the referees all the time in the Premier League. And Jonathan Moss saying something to your Premier League players, is that going to really upset them? Are they that, soft in feeling bad?
I understand that, but I think in this circumstance, that I don't think we fully understand how big a financial implication being relegated from the Premier League is for a club. And, for that to happen on a mistake of, who knows, Hawkeye not being turned on, because it must have been on if the ball was that far over the line.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how the ball can be that far over the line and VAR cannot then go, "Oh, we've got to call that a goal."
No.
Because Hawkeye hasn't worked here. They could see that. The naked eye could see that. So I don't know. There's two mistakes in that passage of play.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also questions point towards why didn't the VAR also... What were they doing? Why weren't they looking at this?
But yeah, I think it is unfair, but you can't necessarily say they were going to definitely go down, stay up if that didn't go in, because there was still a fair chunk of the game to play in that Aston Villa versus Sheffield United game, and Aston Villa going down 1-0 might have forced them to try and be a bit more attacking.
Yeah, no, exactly. We didn't know for sure what would happen. But yeah, no, it's definitely... I think Bournemouth, it's well within their rights. You can also
look at every other... Sorry to cut you off, but
No, go on.
The rest of the season, and the VAR have made mistakes all throughout the season. So I'm sure there'd be a moment or two where you could go back and look at where teams have dropped points based on VAR decisions that weren't right, and say Bournemouth should have stayed up based on that, or Aston Villa should have gone based off that, or Watford should have stayed up. So
yeah, no, you can't.
The Premier League has been rife with mistakes all throughout it this season. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one.
No, you make a fair point, and I think there's not much time for the Premier League to really look over in the off season, what they're going to do with VAR next season. I know that for the next Premier League season, they're going to go to the touchline. The referees are going to be able to go to the monitor now, which it was stupid how they couldn't do that in the first place.
The problem isn't VAR in itself, because the technology is absolutely great and works. It works. There's no disputing whether the technology works or not. It's these idiots that sit in the box and that are actually proper professional referees that have ref the game that sit there and make the decisions based off what they're seeing.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's
because they are the ones in the wrong.
Yeah, it's not the computer error. It's the people in the upstairs. So you're not going to 100%. I mean, so many, like, if you look at the fouls in football, if okay, say we compare like fouls to football and basketball or something, it's much harder in football to say whether it's a foul or not. It's a very subjective sort of decision. It's the referee's decision. You're not going to know 100%. Oh, that's a foul. That's not a foul. And even when you're looking at like deciding penalty kicks, if someone goes down in the box and someone touches him slightly, it's like 9 times out of 10 referees call it a foul nowadays. But if that happens outside the box, they're not calling that most of the time, and VAR is not going to always check that. So there's so many things to talk about VAR. I think that's a whole nother podcast. But
but just quickly, like, I think VAR, it's been shocking this season, and they need to maybe the referees don't have a clear picture of what the actual rules are, and maybe the rule on a hairball needs to be so much more. I think it is pretty set, but maybe it needs to be even more clear and directly to the point, because the referees don't know what is the handball or not. Otherwise, they're just being biased. And I don't think they're being biased, because some weeks they'll give something and then 2 weeks later they won't give it, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, and even when we've seen it all throughout the season, even like when they don't give the handball, 9 times out of 10 the VAR doesn't give it anyway.
I clearly remember Trent Alexander-Arnold at Man City. The one where his arm was not in natural. There was 2 in the same game. One where his arm was next to his side and it hit his hand. Mm-hmm. And another one where his arm was away for his body and it hit his arm.
Yeah,
I know there was talk of the one hitting Bernardo Silva's arm in the build-up or something, but it clearly hit his arm in an unnatural position and allowed him to control the ball and clear it. And I look back to 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I saw Saka for Crystal Palace score a goal and then it'd be called back because it touched the top of his shoulder for a handball, and they overturned the goal. How was that fair? You know what I mean? They just call one thing one week and something the other week. It was a clear handball against Alexander-Arnold, and it doesn't get called, and then Saka gets called for a handball and it hits the point of his shoulder, the top of his shoulder.
Yeah, no, they've been very inconsistent, to say the least, with their decisions, and it's definitely not given anyone sort of faith with VAR.
Exactly, and you wonder why people complain that top teams have bias, and you look at these things and go, well, it's just completely unfair. And I'm not saying there is bias. I think it's just the people that are making these decisions are just so ill-informed that it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Who's sitting around in that box and telling him that's the right decision to make?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lack of education, and they definitely need to look at it over the course of the off-season and implicate like the new rules, or not new rules, but drill into their heads what's a handball, what's not, how they're going to, overturn decisions, and actually, because you know how they say, like, well, they're going to stick with the referee's on-field decision, or like what's their call with
clear and obvious
errors. Like, if
scrap that.
I know, it's either...
You look at it, and if you think it's a penalty based off looking VAR, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
If you think it's a foul, It's a foul.
It's not... None of this...
It has to be a clear and obvious error. That's not what that's a silly thing to say.
It sort of just negates
it's an
the
error,
VAR.
but it's not a clear error, so we won't give it. Well, that's just ridiculous. And then, if it's an error, and it should be called.
Yeah, and that's exactly why the technology is in place, to get rid of these errors, not to say, that wasn't clear and obvious, we're not going to give it. Like, that's why you have the technology to overturn...
It's either an error or it's not an error.
Exactly, to overturn these sort of decisions. But, just going back to Bournemouth, I think they're well within their rights to sue. Obviously, you mentioned it's more of a financial thing, which I understand. They're going down, they're not going to be getting the same Premier League funds that they will playing in the Championship with that TV money. So, obviously they need all the money they can get, going back down to the Championship. They're one of the smaller Premier League clubs in terms of revenue coming in with, they don't have the largest stadium in the world. I think it only holds, 10,000, 15,000? It's not not the biggest stadium, but they're well within their rights to sue, in my opinion. But overall, I think they're not going to have the greatest. The people looking at their club from the outside, looking in at Bournemouth, it's not going to be the greatest picture for them, obviously, with the John Moss situation earlier, and then suing Hawkeye. Maybe people will think they're feeling a bit sorry for themselves not being in the Premier League. But, the fact of the matter is they're relegated, and Eddie Howe's going to...
They won't be playing Premier League football next season. That's
exactly.
right. But, look, if Bournemouth did happen to sue, I wouldn't have a problem with it, personally. I don't think it would be that bad a look in this certain situation. I think they're well within their rights to have a go and see what they can explore legally, but I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
Yeah, and who knows how long that process could take as well, especially if they need to prepare for a season in the Championship where they're going to, hopefully, they want to try and make the Premier League again next season, which is a tough thing to do, and not many clubs can do that, get relegated and get promoted again the following season. So there's to be another distraction for the club amidst all sorts of crazy times with the virus, and obviously you're preparing for a long, grueling Championship season. So it's not the ideal situation for Bournemouth. And there's question marks whether Eddie Howe will stay or not as well. Does he want a new challenge as well? Is he sort of thinking he's done all he can with Bournemouth with his time there? He's done a fantastic job. We can't say that, obviously getting relegated isn't ideal, but he's done an amazing job at Bournemouth if you look at the grand scheme of things, and maybe he wants a new challenge as well, and maybe the club's also looking in a new direction. But
maybe he might get sacked. It wouldn't be surprising.
I think it would be quite harsh to sack him for all that
definitely harsh considering what he's done for the club.
Yeah. But Bournemouth, I was hoping they would stay in the Premier League. We'll see later in our future podcasts. Our friends Jude and Michael will be joining us. They're also Liverpool supporters, but their father, David, is friends with a guy who knows the Bournemouth owners, so they get to go every season for a couple matches to the Bournemouth owners box to watch Bournemouth home games, and usually it's the Bournemouth against Liverpool game that they go to in the Premier League each season. So unfortunately, there won't be that anymore in the Premier League. But I'm sure they'll probably still go to a few of the Championship matches anyway. It's still a great experience. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to a Bournemouth game where you sit in the box with the Bournemouth Russian owners? So that would be quite the experience. But Bournemouth back in the Championship. They've had a long stay in the Premier League, but we'll move on to our final topic of the pod. We'll go to the Newcastle failed takeover. The Saudi owners, the Saudi, or what they hope would have been their owners, have pulled out of the deal with Mike Ashley, agreeing for, around 300 million takeover bid. The Saudis are pulled out amongst what has been such a long process to try and take over this club. We'll get your thoughts, Elliot, of the takeover.
Personally happy that the takeover didn't take place.
Yes.
Because I don't want a team like Newcastle getting to be able to spend millions and millions of pounds, and West Ham getting further away from even more teams. But I think this is drawn out so long that I didn't really have any faith that would ever happen. Yeah,
I think it's been like 14 weeks, 12 weeks around that since it was announced that the Saudis wanted to take over the club. Obviously, the Premier League sort of wanted to, I guess, were within their rights to investigate the Saudis a bit to see what sort of owners were coming into the Premier League. But it has been far too long a process, in my opinion. Premier League's taken a while. The Premier League, we could cut them some slack. They've had to deal with the coronavirus and with the season restart as well. But obviously they had to look at the Saudi owners, and there's all sorts of piracy issues because beIN Sports over there, they're not allowed to show the Premier League. It's banned from being shown, and the Saudi or whoever, the Saudi prince or whatever, their government or whoever was taking over Newcastle were showing the games illegally in Saudi Arabia. So there's issues with piracy with that. Also issues with like workers' rights, or not workers' rights, human rights in Saudi Arabia. The way they treat their people over there. So the Premier League was looking at that as well. Obviously there was that whole situation with the journalists, which the Saudi prince, the people who were taking over Newcastle, was something to do with that murder of that journalist as well. So there's all sorts of things to deal with. That was just all very messy, and honestly, the same as you, I never saw it actually going through. But
no, you'd never take any of these big takeovers particularly seriously, because how many have actually happened?
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if it did happen, Newcastle were going to be the richest club in the Premier League with the Saudi owners. They are 15 times worth the amount of the City owners, which says something. So it's basically a whole country taking over Newcastle, the Saudi Arabian prince, and it was just crazy if they actually bought the club, and it was just, it looked unrealistic. I think Newcastle supporters will feel hard done by, because they were definitely hopeful. I knew if I was going to be in that situation, I would be, fully invested. Oh, this is actually going to happen. We're going to get taken.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of excitement. But at the same time, that with the Saudi investment coming in, there's no guarantee that they know what they're doing. Yes, they may have a lot of money, but they may also ruin the club.
True, exactly. And I think the true Geordie was saying, I don't know if this is 100% true, but he was saying he's not sure whether he actually truly wants them coming in. Is it going to be authentically, are Newcastle going to rise authentically rather than like what City had done through the money?
Yeah, but as a fan, you look at that and you go, if we're getting to the top, at the end of the day, you've got to spend money to get to the top.
Oh, in today's current
even if that just comes with you spending a couple of $100 million in a transfer window because you've got the owners that can do that, well, you're going to be doing it over time eventually. So I don't personally see that much wrong with it. And as a fan, I definitely want West Ham to get some rich Saudi owners and pump some money into the club, because we currently have a transfer budget of zero. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, no, I think most people wouldn't pass up that offer.
But then at the same time, if Newcastle were then to go on to win the league in 5 years after a takeover, a lot of people would discredit it and say, "Oh, you just got rich, you just pumped money into the club."
Yeah,
that's what happened with Leipzig in Germany. They were hated because they got owners that pumped money into the club and they rose up the divisions. But how else are you supposed to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is that sort of danger of football becoming such a just everything money, and I guess people sort of don't want to see that happening, so maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
I don't understand. I don't know. Unless you have salary caps, you can't stop that.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I mean, all the financial fair play stuff, which is actually, I think, was first put in place to help teams stop going bankrupt. I think they need to relook at that, definitely, after this.
Yeah, they can look at that, but at the same day, the financial fair play is based off what a club earns. And a club like Liverpool or PSG or Man City are going to be earning a lot more money than clubs like Bournemouth, let's say.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So they definitely can still spend a whole lot more money than what Bournemouth or someone like Crystal Palace can spend in the Premier League. So it doesn't make it fair, I don't think.
No, there's definitely a massive disparity between those types of clubs, and it's obviously, for a club like Newcastle, the only way to rise up again will be through that money, and that's what I guess clubs like that are going to have to try and do, to get those new rich owners to try and rise up the leagues again, because that's what they have to do to compete with the big boys up the top. But just going back to Newcastle, talking about the supporters and the way they felt, or the way they're feeling right now, it's I guess, who wouldn't want those owners coming in, especially having to endure Mike Ashley for all those years? Of course they're going to want, those rich owners coming in, but they're going to have to, I don't know if Mike Ashley is going to, sell the club after what he's just gone through as well. I mean, I guess this is the first time we can sort of say Mike Ashley isn't actually in the wrong. He's actually tried to sell the club, and the only time he's sort of tried to do that, it's gone on its head, which is very unfortunate. I'm sorry for laughing, Newcastle fans, but Yeah, it is. It's yeah, you're probably going to have to endure another season of Mike Ashley, and
that's the same story at West Ham. Gold and Sullivan, they refused to sell.
Yeah, and
for years they've been wanted out of the club.
Yeah, and there's been no ambition from Mike Ashley in trying to push them forward.
And I must say, Mike Ashley's Newcastle probably have it worse than West Ham in a sense, because Gold and Sullivan have actually spent money. They've just spent no money with no plan, and it's all gone wrong.
Yeah, no, exactly, and there's so many. Yeah, there's so many different talking points with the Newcastle takeover. There's so many things wrong with the takeover deal, and I think that unfortunately for Newcastle supporters, they're going to have to probably be, I don't know if they'll be in a relegation fight next season, but it's going to be that sort of season again, it looks like. But I think Mike Ashley or the club, they said that they want to spend some money in the transfer window on players, but then again, they spent money in the last transfer window, but look who they spent it on. They spent 40-odd million on Joelinton, and what has he done this season? The recruitment hasn't been amazing, to say the least. Saint Maximin, he's been a great addition, I must say, but he could be gone by the start of the season. The way he's played, he doesn't want to stick around for another season in a relegation scrap. He probably has brighter things on the horizon. So
yeah, and I wouldn't say he ever, to justify spending, what did they spend on him? They spent similar money to Haller, I think, for around 40 million on Joelinton. And I think he was a player that showed a bit of promise, but I don't think he necessarily ever excelled in the Bundesliga. West Ham brought Haller over, who had a very, very strong goal scoring and assist record in Germany. And I think if you look at Joelinton, he scored 10 goals last season in the Bundesliga. Michail Antonio scored 10 goals in the Premier League this season. That doesn't justify spending 40 million on him. You know what I mean? Just because he's a few years younger.
Yeah, exactly. They have, similar to West Ham, there's no real sort of clear plan that you can see.
It was exactly the same as West Ham because I don't think Joelinton necessarily is a great player when he's isolated by himself up top in a team that doesn't dominate possession. Just like Haller. Haller played with Jovic in a strike partnership for years at Frankfurt. A couple of seasons. Yeah. And then they both came to clubs here over in the Premier League, and then they were just isolated. They were up top by themselves. The team gets 35% possession in the game, and they're expected to do everything when the ball's gone up to them.
Yeah, no, you're exactly...
And they're not that sort of player.
No, not at all. I that's what I was just going to allude to as well. It's just I'm not sure if Steve Bruce... I'm not sure 100% what their sort of transfer policy is, if they have a director of, recruitment or something like that, but it didn't seem like the sort of thing that Steve Bruce... Was Steve Bruce just the manager at the start of the season? Did he have the transfer window?
He was, yes.
So yeah, I'm not sure if, he sort of wanted Joelinton, again, not 100% sure, but yeah, like Haller at West Ham, you can't expect to put those sort of players in up top when you're playing teams week in, week out of the Premier League where you're only going to have 30% of the ball. And Newcastle are a team that under Steve Bruce, and credit to him, he has done very well, but he's had to play defensively with the players he has, and you're not going to put Joelinton up front and get double figures in the Premier League.
No, that's right. You can't expect Joelinton to sit up top every game by himself and score 20 goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, and now if they're trying to sell him on, if they do, they're not going to get the same return for him.
No, I don't think they will send him on. I think they'll give him another season, just like West Ham will with Haller. But at the same time, if neither of those clubs figure out what's best for that player and play to that player's strengths, then it's just a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly. And also, another thing, for West Ham and Newcastle supporters, they don't want to go to the stadium, not that I don't know if they will be anytime soon, but they don't want to watch their team having 30% of the ball and playing defensively each week. That's just not what they want to go and see. So it's just, they have to...
Yeah, but I think they would be happy to see that if they were getting results, but they aren't getting results. And whilst Newcastle had a good season, they had an okay season. They didn't have a good season, but they had an okay season for what they had.
I think... Sorry, just
and
quickly...
for Steve Bruce first question in charge, both clubs need to be trying to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it was... I think Newcastle this season... I could be wrong, but I think they finished 1 point lower than they did under Rafa Benitez last season. So, it's not... They've had two solid seasons staying in the Premier League with what sort of players they have. But, it could be another one of those seasons.
They finished in 13th both seasons.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people expected them to be in a relegation battle this year. So I think, in that sense, they've done okay.
Yeah, they have. No, they definitely have. And obviously, at the start of the season, all those Newcastle supporters did not want Steve Bruce as the manager, and he's sort of, proven a few people wrong, which is, good on him. Old Big Stevie Bruce, likes himself that kebab, but yeah, I guess West Ham and Newcastle, I think, important off seasons for them, as it is for most Premier League teams as well, but definitely trying times for them, and we'll see what the off season brings for them. Do you think West Ham will finish above Newcastle next season?
I'd hope so, but who knows? Let's be honest, who knows with the West Ham?
It's hard to predict at the moment what's going to happen next season, to be honest, and I think that can be a whole new podcast lead up to next season, but also I think we'll end it there for our first podcast. I hope you all enjoyed the listen. There's still plenty to come from us. We're going to be looking to cover obviously we have upcoming European football in the Champions League and Europa League still to be decided. We will take a look at the end of the domestic season with the FA Cup and review that for you as well. But yes,
I can cut you off. We also have a Championship player final next week between Brentford and Fulham that we can discuss.
Yes, Brentford and Fulham. That'll be obviously two teams eager to get back in the Premier League. It's been have Brentford. They haven't been in the Premier League, have they?
I'm not sure, but obviously Fulham were in a couple of years ago. It'd be a good effort if they could bounce back up after only 2 seasons in the Championship. So,
yeah, that'll be, all great content to cover. So still plenty to come from us. We will be uploading to many platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iTunes sort of things. So please subscribe to us, give us a like, share it with all your friends. We're just getting started, so... there's plenty more to come from us. We're going to be covering all things football. We'll do podcasts, maybe get into some FIFA and Football Manager as well. Looking to do some live reaction videos, transfer news, all that sort of thing. So all things football. We're just getting started. Please share us around. And thanks, Elliot, for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to what is to come with this.
Yes, hopefully... it really kicks off. We're definitely going to, be trying to consistently upload and get it started. So, we won't keep you longer for too much longer. We'll try and end it here. So, thanks everyone for listening in, and we hope to see you on the next pod.